Hey everyone, welcome to the first webcamp session of the day. Thank you for joining us. This session is coming from Office of Development and Stanford Web Services. It's a case study of a website we launched recently called Stanford Momentum. And we built it and launched it out of our team in partnership with Stanford Web Services. It's a fairly unique site for Stanford in terms of kind of its purpose and the visual design that we went with. So we're excited to just kind of show you some of our work and what went into creating it. But it's also a session about the process of building it and what went into it and the several times that things went sideways and we had to pivot and try things again and try things differently. And we learned a lot, and we thought we could share that part with you too. And maybe you can relate or learn something for your next project. So that is, that's what we're going for today. Our presenters are a subset of a much larger team that worked on this site starting back in July of 2022. So two of us, Jonathan and I, sit in the Office of Development. So we were like the client side of the project team. And then Carrie and Yvonne, who are here from Stanford Web Services, they were like more of the in-house agency side of the team and focused on UX, design, and development and build. So we've had the privilege of partnering with SWS on previous projects as well. It's always delightful to work with them, because they truly integrate with our project team and collaborate with us every step of the way. So this project was no exception. It was also one of our more ambitious projects with in terms of like pushing kind of all of us into new directions and skill sets and bringing our A game and keeping it there through what was kind of a bumpy ride. So that is that's who's with us today. So to start it off, I'll walk through kind of high level what the project was and how we approached it. And then Jonathan, Carrie, and Yvonne will go into greater detail about the design and dev work that really made it come to life. And I think we'll have enough time after for questions, and we can just kind of do discussion and dig into what you found interesting a little bit more. So in the beginning, we set out to stand up a comprehensive fundraising campaign website. So if you aren't familiar, a campaign is an organized fundraising effort. It has like announced financial goals, a timeline to support specific strategic priorities for the university. They're very common in higher ed. Stanford has done many. Typically, the president sets the vision for the campaign and is kind of the figurehead throughout the whole thing. So in Office of Development, we were tasked with building and launching Stanford's next campaign site, which is a big undertaking, and it only happens every decade or so. So before this site project even kicked off, OOD had put in months of prep on strategy and creating a campaign brand in partnership with a creative agency and kind of setting all that foundational work first. And once that was ready, then we started into this site. First working on site strategy, content plans, lo-fi wires, and hi-fi wires, some of which you can see here. This was some of our earliest work. And our first pivot happened at this point when we got far enough along in the hi-fi wires, like what you see here, to kind of realize we weren't pushing the envelope enough on design and brand to justify what the campaign creative brand was going in the direction of, which was pretty bold and different. And this you can see is kind of pretty traditionally Stanford here. So we kind of threw a wrench in it and pushed our creative agency to turn up the volume on site design, which took a little backtracking, and we went through some new rounds of pushing design significantly further. You can see some iterations here. Some even got kind of weird, but we were just trying stuff out, kind of opened the creative gates a little more. We got to a pretty interesting place that was pushing into a new direction and also pretty functional for what we needed for site strategy. But that was a point we hit our next pivot on the strategy end. And as I mentioned a little bit ago, the university president is really important to a campaign. So When President Tessier Levine resigned last spring, our campaign came to a screeching halt, as did our site project. So realizing we could no longer stand up a full campaign site at that time, we went back to the drawing board on content strategy, worked through some new ideas, settled on building a site for compelling storytelling about the amazing work going on at Stanford that connect to the campaign priorities, but in a much more subtle way, to kind of bridge this interim period. We wanted to keep our audiences inspired, even though we were kind of had to take a pause on the actual campaign, but keep that momentum going with them that had already begun. So that's where the site name came from. So as a team, we also had to really push to keep the momentum of our project going as well. So at that point, we'd finished the creative work with our creative agency. SWS was on the project now full-time design. And after we had hit the bricks to adjust strategy, and we're kind of figuring out, okay, what are we doing here? We actually had a little bit of downtime, and we encouraged SWS to use some hours to just like explore creative layouts and components with interesting interaction without having too many guardrails or direction, and just let's see what comes out. And you can see some of that stuff here. It was a unique, time for a project where we kind of just had some loose exploration. And that exploration time really ended up bringing out some pretty compelling ideas. So once our strategy was clear again and we knew what we were going for, we were actually able to use a lot of that work from that exploratory time, which I think elevated the final product. So after we settled on a smaller scope, we know what we're doing, we leaned into creating the site that's live today, which is still pretty bold. Focus on compelling story layouts, rich imagery, interesting stories, and room to grow over time. So what we launched at first was very much an MVP with enough stories published to just kind of get us started. And since then, we've continued to just create new content and stories while expanding on our component library at the same time. So one of the exciting parts of what we're doing has been what we call feature stories. And those are elevated stories with some added interaction or media, just a little bit more of a rich experience. So I encourage you to check some of those out on the site. And we just continue plugging away, awaiting our next pivot when we will begin to add to the site and that we started and someday get that back up to a full campaign site.
Thanks, Alexis.
Yeah.
And like Alexis mentioned, I also work on the OOD team as creative director. I promise that is me in the profile photo, the stereotypical black and white designer photo. Yeah, I wanted to rewind it a little bit and talk about the brand and how that came to life for the campaign specifically. I think the theme of pivoting and trying to build momentum has a lot of layers and had a lot of layers in the brand itself as well. So kind of want to talk through what the brand was, why did it exist, what's the brand for. And like Alexis mentioned, it was all part for this part of this campaign called On Purpose, a fundraising campaign for the Office of Development, which you saw in some earlier slides. A brand that needed to be created to aid that campaign visually, communicating the big impact that Stanford is having, not just in our community and in the US, but also the world. So that was a big task. We worked alongside our team collaboratively as well with the agency that Alexis mentioned earlier, which is actually called 160/90, based out of Philly. They did a really good job collaborating with us, but a lot of work went into this, a lot of thought went into it, and it needed to be bold. And that's kind of where we started. So what is the brand itself? Needed to feel familiar, but also different and match the big goals of our campaign and truly make a difference. So we wanted to build a brand that reflected the spirit of Stanford and introduce a new visual system that is flexible and pushes the Stanford brand into new levels. We had a lot to work with, and the Stanford brand is already very strong and something that the Office of Development already used really well. So that's kind of where I want us to get started and see, go back even further and see where the Stanford brand was before this campaign. So as you all know, probably have seen a lot of different products across the university, but the familiar and iconic Stanford brand Very strong foundation already. Our, university communications team does a really good job of having brought this to life. But as you can see, it's heavy cardinal. There's a lot of really great textures that evoke a lot of movement and motion. And a lot of these things continue to live on in the next brand. It was actually the easiest part of that exploration and that work was this foundation was already so strong. We had, 20% of what would be the future brand for this campaign basically done just based on these facts, on these specific assets that were already really strong. So kind of want to walk through what the brand was. So after a lot of rounds and so much good work on our teams, both the agency and our internal teams, we landed here. So here you see a lot of familiar elements, obviously still keeping the use of cardinal red, a lot of type that you would have seen in the traditional iconic Stanford brand. The Stanford marks still very much so part of what we were doing. But also we're trying to introduce a lot of new things that would make this, like I said, feel familiar, but also push us in a direction that we wanted to go to really meet the goals of this campaign. So you see a lot of motion and a lot of direction that guides the users and the readers. This extended color palette that also exists within the Stanford brand currently, but just pushing it further a little bit and how we use it and how it comes to life specifically for this campaign. Photography being a really big focal point of what we did from the get-go, really humanizing the university, using real people that are actually doing research and actually making an impact on campus. Even got to do a little bit of film work using 35 millimeter film for photography, which was a lot of fun. And then introducing some new textures. So you see some wave textures here, you'll see some halftone textures there at the bottom, really crazy infinity texture there on the bottom left. So really new elements that haven't really been used in this type of space for Stanford, and we were really excited about it. And then, like we've all talked about up to this point, the great pivot happened, and we were forced to kind of eliminate a couple of elements, but fortunately got to keep most of it intact. So we didn't move forward with the elements that you most would heavily think would tie to the name on purpose, which were the logo mark and then also this bracket element that you see on the top left. Like I said, fortunately, we got to keep most of it intact. So all these elements you see here now are elements that we use across all the mediums on the campaign with print, digital, and even event design. And you will see most of this in the Momentum site. So luckily got to keep most of it, but also we still had to pivot. So from there, we were able to build a brand guidelines that would serve as a guide and a platform for us establishing the brand and actually make it real. This was the first step to actually using this and having people think, this is something that we can actually use and understand. And they touch on messaging and design, and as much as they serve as quality control for our teams, and when we share this brand out externally, it's also just a foundation. We knew this had to grow and evolve. And we knew that this had to grow and evolve specifically on the site. So that's where we were figuring out what we wanted to do, where the campaign was heading, and we took some time to do a little bit of that, evolving the brand and pivoting and exploring, which led to a lot of really great work both on the web, but also just across what the brand currently is. So wanted to share a couple of slides on some of the exploration work we did during this time that we were not exactly sure where we were headed, but this is an example of something that was directly translated into the site, this idea of duality. You see this at the top of our homepage, but trying to make, the doctor and the student, what was and what could be, or this idea of challenges and optimism. So did a lot of exploration with that, a lot of contrast, which an idea that came to life really well on the site. Started to mix type. This wasn't something that was necessarily included in the first round of brand design, but we felt like it was something that would be very beneficial. I think it makes the text really dynamic and layouts. So we started exploring what that would look like. Also a direct translation into something that you'll see on Momentum. This idea of seeing, reading, and feeling a story all in one place, how the copy and the photos could tell a story together to further show the impact of whatever we're trying to say. So did a little bit more exploring, as you can see with color as well. This might not be something that people would see out in the wild and think Stanford, but the messaging and the people and even, the use of the word mark there kind of bring that all together. And then lastly, similarly, along that same messaging, but how photo and copy can tell the same story and complement each other, did a little bit more into that. And this is also another design example that we did way back that, made it into the site and was directly translated. So like I mentioned, from the beginning, we knew that the site would be the place where we could flex the brand the most. And I think you'll see that. And I hope you see that in the work that Carrie's going to be showing us and walking us through, and how that actually happened on the site.
Thanks, Jonathan. I think it's my turn. Just caveat, I have a 6-year-old home with me today, so she may make an appearance. She's on explicit instructions. Let me share my screen. Okay, can everyone see my screen? Sweet. Okay, so I'm Carrie Augenstein. I'm a senior UI UX designer with web services and the lead creative on the web services team. And I'll be leading you through the architecture of the design system for the website portion of this larger momentum program. Let me just make sure there we go. So our role at SWS, like has been mentioned so far in our work with OOD, is to be a type of translator for all of their brands and for this project within Momentum. So we're taking all of these beautiful conceptual designs that the creative agency generated, and then the follow-through work that Jonathan and his team have continued. And we're architecting this design system machine that will deliver these immersive and exciting stories from our content creators. So our expertise is really focused on delivering that brand in a user experience that's clear and usable, and really importantly, meeting WCAG AA standards. The design system components also need to be buildable. So we need to deliver something to our developers. Yvonne's here with us today. And collaborating a lot between the three teams, or the three dependencies, business and design and development, to make sure that all of these patterns and interactions are going to be achievable and maintainable in code. And then we want to make sure that we have a really flexible system and a lot of patterns, but not too many. We want to make sure the authoring experience too, for Alexis and her team, is clear and also usable. So here's just an excerpt of the design system where I'll talk through a little bit of one of the things that makes interaction design different from overall brand design or two-dimensional design or environment design. So when we're taking color and flowing that into UI UX, it's really important that we're being mindful of the end user experience and accessibility. Color almost always is going to be interpreted to be an interaction. And so you're seeing the accent colors being pulled in ways that, you're looking at cards. So these cards are going to be interactive, but we have a lot of these color bars. Clearly, we're going to have buttons that are full of color, and you're seeing the cardinal red there. And then we're using color also in some ways in full color in the background. But again, it's just really important as we're architecting this interactive system, we're making sure that these components are going to be clear and friendly to the end users. And then as we're building out all these patterns, what's been really, really fun for us at SWS with this particular Momentum brand is that there's a lot of flexibility, and we wanted to make sure that the website was going to reflect all of this immersive experience that we really wanted to build, something that was bold and beautiful. And so you're seeing the three different typefaces shown here in each of these different cards. There's Druck Wide, Druck Standard, and also the serif, the source serif that we use throughout all the other websites at Stanford. Those color bars getting injected into these cards. The cards are used for different purposes, some portrait imagery and some squares. So you can see that there's consistency that we're building in these patterns, but also flexibility as well, so that there can be surprise in the system. And then there's a lot of big full width imagery. So we wanted to create something, again, that was immersive and also cinematic in the experience. We wanted the site to be bold and dynamic with a lot of black backgrounds and white type. So you're going to see that a lot. So here you're seeing right at the top of a page, a big full width image, the Druck Standard typeface right on top, that color bar showing on the left, something quite similar here. So again, we're remixing these components as a part of the system. the texture bar at the bottom, again, that big, beautiful image in the background. And here, and again, so we're layering photography for that cinematic experience with these changemaker cards, type on top of imagery, big, bold, white type on top of imagery. And then something similar here, cards, and again, text on top of the full imagery in the background. So again, just to touch on the partnership with OOD. So we've been partnering with OOD for about 4 years. And effectively, as we've been doing that, we've become a single team in the way that we collaborate. We spend a lot of time together. We're working to iterate on the sketching, the design work. There's sketching that's happening in code all the time. There's sketching that's happening in Figma all the time. And we want to make sure that the 3 disciplines are a part of drawing on all this domain experience and knowledge and leveraging that unified approach in working towards all of Stanford's goals. And we've really found that this has been an advantage for us and our ability to take the conceptual ideas from the creative agency and really deliver that fully functional content vehicle. So I'll just show you a few more excerpts. Alexis already touched on this, but when we had the big pivot, we were really happy to be on because we'd spent so much time with OOD, they were really open to trusting us. And they said, go build immersive prototypes, see what we can be creative with. We had some open time to explore. And we knew we wanted to try new creative ideas that we could then leverage into the future. So some of the things that I'll show you, and I'm going to go over to Figma. Let me close that. So you'll see some of the things right from these screens that are appearing now in the live site. So not necessarily this one, but let me just scroll down and show you one of the things that we wanted to do was to explore ways to build stories that were not center column text running down the middle of the screen. So how could we be a little bit different in how we were exploring the ways that we could tell stories on a screen? So this was just one of the ways that we were interpreting a different way of storytelling. And then I'll share another prototype with you. Let me close that out. So this big dish image you can see. So there's a ton of iteration that's flowing right through the work. That dish image is the same image that's appearing on the current homepage. I'll just take you through this Figma prototype down through, again, big expansive imagery. All of these things are flowing right into the current site and the design system that we've created. So this, again, was just another way where we have the 4 themes on this particular screen, expanding that through the center. And then you would see this particular story flowing through the center content well, but it was just a little bit of a different way for us to think about how do I deliver multiple ideas in one screen and then also add some more interaction there. And then I'll just show you one more prototype before I hand off to Yvonne. So then again, this image we've put right into the changemaker cards that you were seeing earlier. There's this overlay that's happening. So again, that changemaker piece with the portraits that we have overlay right on top of that background image. And then here is something that we continue to talk about where we're interested in delivering stories, multiple stories through a vertical experience, but also exploring something that's horizontal. So here you can see kind of this postcard treatment where we have the multiple stories playing out on a single vertical experience. This is just another way to interpret something that maybe in Figma's being a little bit slow, a little bit more immersive with storytelling here. Okay. And I'll hand it off to Yvonne now to talk about how did we build all of this stuff for Momentum. I'm going to stop sharing and hand it over to you, Yvonne.
Thank you, Carrie. I am going to share my screen first. Let me get in presenter mode. And let me rearrange my desktop so I can see my notes and some of your friendly faces. Could everyone see my slide? Cool. The notes. Hi, everyone. I am Yvonne Tang from Stanford Web Services. I'm a front-end developer. So sorry to disappoint you, but I am obviously not a cat. So I'm going to talk about the building of this website. So our teams together, we have high expectations. So we're like tiger parents. So we want a lot of things for this website. So of course we want it to be fast, secure. So remember the good old days, you have a CMS and then you type /admin at the end of the URL, and then maybe you can crack it. No more of that. We don't want that to happen. We want the site to be maintainable and future-proof, and then of course immersive. So the OOD team, they provide really great content, and we want to do the content justice. We want some delightful animation, something different. Of course, we also want the site to be easy to update, because the OOD team and some of the content offers, they will actually update the site themselves. And they also they have come up with very creative use of the components we built from previous site that we've seen. So we want the site to be easy to update and then flexible. And then last but not least, the site needs to be accessible, very important. So we pulling it together, we need to pick a tech stack. So this is our tech stack in the beginning. So we went with what we knew. We went with a decouple approach. So what that means is that the content management layer is separate from the front end, so the website itself. So we picked Storyblok. We've done several other sites with Storyblok as a headless CMS. And then we use the React framework. And in the beginning, we use the Gatsby framework for actually building the site. And the site itself is hosted on Netlify. So the build process is handled there. So whenever someone make a change in Storyblok, hit publish, or if we push some code changes, we push out a release. There's a webhook that's sent to Netlify. It will build the website and then statically generated pages. And then they have what's called a Netlify Edge. So it's a content delivery network. And for also people, wherever you're in the world, if you get the website files from the closest location, it's supposed to be fast. And it was pretty fast. And then for front end, the styling, we use Tailwind CSS. And then our homegrown design system, Decanter version 7, which is based on Tailwind CSS. So I have a little link here. We have a presentation last year on Tailwind CSS, so you can take a look at what it is. Go to the next one. So we built the list of these websites previously. And then the first two sites, Giving to Stanford, Make a Give, also with the OOD team. So these 4 sites, they were built with the stack that I just showed you earlier. So let me just go quickly show you these 4 sites. So these are built with that stack. So it seems logical. We've had sites built with this stack, so we ran with the same thing, hoping we can reuse a lot of the code. And then here comes our first pivot. Just a few months into building the site. So Gatsby is gone. And then we decided to go with Next.js. So this is from the survey, State of JavaScript 2022. So there's a little bit of alarming thing that we saw here. So here, this chart showing the retention rate of different frameworks. And then the pink line here is Gatsby. So you can see that the retention has been declining since 2019. It was really good in 2019, 90% retention, and then it's slowly dropping. So what happened to it? We were wondering. So we found that there are a lot of bugs that were simply not fixed. So they were there from version to version. Some of our sites were on earlier version of Gatsby and we saw those bugs. And then in the latest version, those bugs were still there. And then, so Storyblok has a version 2 visual editor update, and there was some incompatibility. So that always happens. So sometimes we have a lot of dependency. So we have React, and then we have Storyblok, and then we have Gatsby, and all these things depend on each other. So sometimes what happens is that they're trying to catch up with each other. The problem with Gatsby is that because not enough people are using it, so it become not as high of a priority. So for example, for Storyblok to make it compatible. So we went to the Gatsby repository and we saw very little activity. So that was very alarming. We didn't actually see any meaningful pull requests. There were no bug fix or feature coming. And then we found out, it was acquired by Netlifty Gatsby. So ironically, that was the reason that we picked Gatsby in the beginning, because we use Netlify ourselves. So we thought if Netlify acquired Gatsby, that's a good thing because they will be more compatible. But that didn't happen. So it turns out Netlify only interested in the content hub, like the data warehouse aspect of Gatsby, but not in the framework itself. So they end up actually laying off a lot of people who work on Gatsby as soon as they acquire it. So that was what happened. So we replaced it with Next.js. You can see the blue line here, Next.js retention is very good, steadily at 90%. And so you might have heard of Mary Kondo, the Japanese organization consultant, and she said, if something doesn't spark joy, then throw it away. So I might have made this quote up myself a little bit, but that's the idea of it. So that's what we did. Gatsby didn't spark joy, and it was a pain to work with, so we threw it away. But luckily, actually, the refactor from Gatsby to Next.js, it only took about a week and a little bit more later on with some bug fixes, and our other developer, Shay McKinney, is here. You can ask him about it. But sometimes, even if something sparks joy, you still have to throw it away. So that happens with our branding, and then the direction of the website changed when president left. So I am actually going to show you some of the things that we did in the beginning. So this is some of the earlier versions that we were trying. So you can see some of the motion we added, and we even added a pause button for accessibility. And you can see, this part is actually my favorite. So I was sad to part with it, but maybe someday we'll bring it back. So this is an earlier version of the website. And this is some of the early exploration of immersive story. And I'm going to scroll down, and then we just did a really long page. So other than Carrie doing her exploration in Figma prototype, I was also doing some exploration in code and see what's possible. So I love these cats. They're on a lot of my test websites. So just testing what could be done from simple to slightly more adventurous things. And then this is like the one where probably what Alexis said is without guardrail. So that would be it. So going back to my slides. So So luckily, even we had to pivot. We all the team, the vision and the brand and the content, and they have designers. And then as we have our designers, developers, and project manager here, Andy. So we have a lot of trust in each other, and we were able to bounce ideas off of each other, and we pivot successfully. So at the end, we went with this tech stack, and we have 2 more members. So we need something to create a accessible animation. So we went with Figma motion to add these animation. It has a really great developer experience. They have really good documentation. Works well with it is actually built with React in mind, so works really well with React. So for accessibility, for example, it offers a React hook that detects whether a user prefers reduced motion. So we use that and we create a reduced motion mode for the website. And we don't have any animation that lasts longer than 2 seconds, and we try to keep them subtle. I believe from our accessibility team, animation shouldn't be longer than 5 seconds. Otherwise, they need a pause button. So and then we have 2 honorary member of the tech stack. I added them as ChatGPT and then GitHub Copilot. They are very useful. So in fact, actually, ChatGPT recommended Figma Motion to me as a good animation package. But you have to be really careful when using them, because at first when I asked them, hey, can you give me some suggestion for packages that you can create accessible animation with? And then they completely made up packages name that doesn't exist. They sound accessible, they sound legit, but you have to check what they're suggesting to you too. So the result, we have this website, and then we did a lighthouse scan, and then this is when it was first launched, so it performed well. I don't know what it is now. We added something, so I can guarantee the scores are exactly the same, but the site should still be pretty fast. And so I'll do a quick scroll through the website. So let me refresh, you can see the animation. So some of you probably haven't seen it. So the animation is subtle. You see here, like the heading will come in from the side, and then the cards will move up. And then here at the end, we have these cards. And then this part is there are 2 main type of animation from Figma Motion. So one is like when you scroll things, when they come into the viewport, they appear. And then another one is that they respond to your scroll position. So for example, these big letters here, if I scroll up and down, it will detect where I am on the site and it will animate. And then I'm actually going to do a very quick demo of the reduced motion mode. So I test yesterday, it's still working, and live demo can go wrong. So hope this works. I'm going to switch on reduced motion on my computer, and then I'm going to go back. I'm going to refresh first, and then let me go back to the top of the site, and then I'll refresh. So as I scroll down, you will see some differences. So remember how the heading will come in from the left, and then the cards in the regular version, the cards will come up. So here you can see they just fade in. So the only change is the opacity here. So people who don't like things flying around, they will see a more subtle version. And then also here, the movement on the letter as you scroll is also a lot more subtle. So, and that's the end of my part. I'm going to stop sharing and hand the virtual microphone back to Alexis and Jonathan.
Thank you, Yvonne. And thank you, everybody, for sticking with us through that. And hope you learned something. Hope you feel inspired. We have a couple minutes if you have questions for any of us or anything you want to mention or discuss before we close out in 3 minutes. We're happy to do that.